Is it possible to change careers without completely starting over and taking a huge pay cut?
And is it a fantasy that we can actually enjoy our work and pay the bills?
This week, we speak to career and confidence coach Adelle Thompson, who helps women build the confidence needed to crush career changes and increase their income.
Thank you so much for joining us. And to get us started off, I would love to know, in your opinion, what does a fulfilling career actually look like?
I think a fulfilling career changes over time as you evolve.
Okay.
I think that's the key thing. I think so many people feel like you need to know what you want to do at like 16 or 18. You know, in the UK, They get us to pick really early what we're going to be, like at like 14, 15. And then that's it. For some people, that is really the truth. Like they find what they want to do, they find their thing. And fulfilling to me just means you enjoy it. Fulfilling career, fulfilling life, all comes down to how happy are you?
Yeah.
How good do you feel when you wake up in the morning? And I'm not talking about like the cold mornings we get here. You don't feel good every morning when you get up. I'm talking about like how good do you feel about the people you work with, the environment you're in, the way you're being treated. Do you feel appreciated? And do you feel like you're giving something? Because I sometimes feel like if you, not necessarily, it doesn't always have to be your purpose, but when you feel like you're really sharing something, a quality that you have, a strength that you have, it feels good. Yeah. To share that with someone. It doesn't matter what it is. Like if you're an amazing administrator and people are always like, oh my gosh, thank you, I couldn't do this without you. It sounds so simple, but if that will make you feel good, if you feel good at the end of each day, that's a fulfilling career to me. So yeah, that's what I think.
I mean, that sounds so amazing. And I'd love to know, why do you think it is that so many people are stuck in careers where they don't like the people they're working with, they don't feel appreciated, they don't feel like they're giving, they're able to give really what they've got to offer? Why are so many people feeling unfulfilled and uninspired in their work, do you think?
I think a lot of us, we choose a career at a certain age and we do all this studying and then we get the job and then we're good at the job. Like sometimes we're really good at the job. So it's almost that whole saying, you've made your bed, now you got to lie in it. And we do it to ourselves. We say to ourselves, well, this is what I've chosen. And now people are going to know that I made the wrong choice. A lot of it, embarrassment.
It's like that sunk cost fallacy, isn't it? Sometimes we feel as though, well, we spent so much time investing in this career that if we walk away, well, is it a waste?
It's a waste. We feel like we've lost everything. I believe, doesn't matter what career it is, everything you learn comes with you.
Yeah. I
was a teacher. I taught early years for years. I'm a coach now. Full circle. I just teach adults. I also teach first aid. My qualities of teaching came with me. My ability to be able to connect with different children when it was children. I had to be able to teach children at all different levels, all different ways. I had to do that in my first aid training. And then I moved on to doing that as a manager. What I'm saying is we don't pinpoint, actually, your qualities and who you are come with you. So even if you've studied for years, it's going to come with you. But I think we feel like, well, if this is what I've done, this is all I know. And I think that's really important. All I know is this career. What if I'm rubbish at something else?
Yeah, well, that's so true. And I'd love to kind of dig into that a bit because I've got a lot of friends that are in that situation. And I've been there as well, where what you're doing right now isn't working. Like you're not fulfilled, you're not enjoying it, it's draining, but it's all you know. So how do you start trying to get out of that mindset where you're like, well, this is all I can do?
I think the first thing is to look at your actual skills. You can separate your skills from the industry. A lot of people feel like they feel like they are their industry.
Yeah.
And actually it's not. There's specific skills that you've learned in the industry that you can take with you. And I think that's the first thing you need to look at. What are you just good at? Yeah. What are you naturally good at, even in your friendship groups? Like someone's always the motivator, someone's always the organizer, someone's always the lastminute.com, like doesn't care about nothing but is the spontaneous fun one. Like who are you in your friendship group? And then who are you in your career? Because even in your office or wherever it is you work, you're a specific person. You're either, again, the organizer, the motivator. You are someone in your office that you have a skill set that is very separate from the industry. And I think that's really important. Like when I speak to people, when I was in childcare, one of my skill sets is communication. I'm an introvert, but I'm a good communicator.
Yeah.
And I always was like, well, I can't go and do anything else. My introvert nature was like, this is all I know. I can't do anything else. People won't take me seriously.
Yeah.
But then I was like, wait, okay, what else can I do? And then I started to realize it wasn't what else can I do, it's what I'm already doing.
Yeah.
Communicate.
Move it to a different setting.
It's just thinking about where can you move it to a different setting. And also, if you are unhappy, I think it's really important when people are like, I'm stuck and I can't do anything else, to just sit back and say to yourself, so I'm going to do this for another 30 years. I'm just going to be unhappy for another 30 or 40 years. And I think sometimes that question alone, when you start to ask yourself that question, like, oh, this is what, so I've decided that for the rest of my life, I'm just going to be unhappy. And for a lot of us, when we ask ourselves that question, it's like, okay, no, I might as well take it. And then reminding yourself that before you got good at what you're in now, you didn't know you'd be good at it.
Yeah, that's so true.
Before you got into whatever you do right now, before you started, you had no idea if you'd be good at it. So just be willing to start again. I think a lot of us are scared to be beginners. Yeah. As you get older, it's the fear.
Yeah. And I know in your work, you, as well as coaching people around career changes, you also build a lot of confidence coaching into that. And I do think I hear exactly what you're saying, but I think a lot of us, and I can talk from experience, and I think particularly women, we struggle to acknowledge our skills and what we really bring to the table. How do you help people actually see their value and what they are bringing and what they have to offer? Because I think we are so quick to kind of overlook things.
I think especially women, we're conditioned that way. We're conditioned to be a little bit more humble, not to brag, not to show off.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Be quiet. It's not ladylike. I feel like we're conditioned like that. I lacked I had no confidence early on in my career at all. When I was like my teens, in my 20s, I didn't feel like I was a confident person. I was quite shy. So I remember, for me, it took me even like 6 months even to get up the courage to say, right, I'm finally leaving this job. Like I didn't want to, I thought about it, but it took me another 6 months to actually pull the trigger because it does take us a long time as women to really tap into our confidence. I think what's really important is to speaking to people that we trust, having the conversation and letting other people sometimes say to you, oh, but you do this and you do this and you do this and you do this. And then, sometimes when your friends mirror things back to you and then you're like, oh, that was my experience. Someone said to me, you're really good at like talking to the parents and getting them to want to come to our school and to our nursery. And like, you're really good at it. And they were like to me, that means you're good at sales. And I was like, no, I am not good at sales. Like, no, I cannot sell. They were like, I feel like you'd be really good in recruitment. Literally someone I know, that's what they said to me. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. Never looked at it, started looking into human resources, started looking into recruitment, started looking at the skills. And I was kind of like, maybe. And I think that's it. It's just the seed. But I definitely think we have to speak to people, but people that we trust, because there are people that will, in your life that will say to you, no, stick to what you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to build your confidence, it has to start with talking to people you trust and also paying attention. I think as humans, we take for granted the things we're good at. And we don't even pay attention to the fact that hundreds of people will be saying to you, oh my gosh, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? I couldn't go to anyone else. We all have people like that in our life and we don't even pay attention, or we think, oh, I'm just doing my job.
Yeah.
That's what I'm supposed to do. When you're hearing little bits of praise, pay attention. Is it repeated about the same skill set? I noticed people would always be like to me, oh my gosh, can you just organize this holiday for me? Can you just organize this event for me? Just in my personal life. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I really good at organization?
Yeah.
But it's paying attention. As women, we need to pay attention to what people are saying to us on the positive instead of the negative. We're very quick with the negative.
Yeah.
Are we listening to the positives?
That's so true, actually. And when you were saying that, it made me really kind of think about my own experience in the sense that, like, I never really thought, oh, I could make a career out of writing. Like, it wasn't something I ever considered. No one told me it. But then I started to, like, write in my spare time a bit. And people would be like, oh, could you just maybe like write this blog for me or for this company? And I was like, oh, I thought everyone can just do this, but maybe it turns out that this is something that I'm good at and I can use. And it's like you say, it really takes, I guess, getting rid of those assumptions sometimes that we have about our skills being things that everyone can do or not being particularly valuable, to actually kind of, see what we might be able to apply to a working environment.
I love that you said that, because I think our biggest thing is that we take for granted the things that come easy to us. and we assume that everyone can do them. I coached someone and she was a lawyer.
Yeah, I can really, really relate.
And can you resonate? Yeah, I coached the lawyer once and she said to me, oh my gosh, you're amazing with words. And I was like, you're a whole lawyer with a master's degree. Like, you have to be good with words. But she was like, oh yeah, but everyone in my class passed. And I was like, what? Because everyone in your class passed, you think that being a lawyer is easy.
Yeah.
And then I was like, so go and do research and look at the percentage of people that pass, get a master's and are lawyers. And when she came back to our next session, she was like, I'd never done, like, she just hadn't thought of like, oh, actually being a lawyer is hard, but because she does it, it's her job. And she was in a classroom full of 30 other people that became lawyers. To her, that is really easy.
Yeah.
And then to someone like me who's like, what? Like, it's not easy to be a lawyer. Like, that would be like saying it's easy to be a doctor.
Yeah.
But I feel like, again, if it comes easy to you, you take it for granted that it's not special.
Yeah, I could not agree more with that. And I think I see it in so many people around me. But there's that point, I guess, where you are starting to recognize what your skills might be, what it is that you are good at, that you can apply to a work setting. And then there's actually, like you say, the doing it and taking the plunge. And I think for a lot of people, one of the challenges is not only the idea of being a beginner again, but also the idea of having to like take a pay cut from being, I guess, more senior in a career that you don't like and starting again, or going sideways, if not, that feeling that you're not progressing. So how do you encourage people to tackle that mindset shift?
Firstly, create a plan. I'm a planner. I'm an organizer by nature. I plan everything. The plan sometimes just makes you feel better. It doesn't always go to plan. Yeah. I just want to say that. But I'm a planner. Like, I'll plan like 6 months to a year. I love
that though. Yeah. Because I think it's good you need to be able to pivot. We've talked about this quite a bit on this podcast, but I think psychologically having a plan is very helpful, because otherwise you can feel like it's just chaos.
And also, we're taught to have steps in life, aren't we? We're taught you go to school, you go to high school, you go to college, you get a degree. Like, you're taught steps. So our brains are taught in steps. So I feel like even when we get older, we plan, like, do you want children? Do you not? Do you want to get married? Everything is a plan. So start off by planning.
Yeah.
Like, plan what the move is. And I like that you said about side steps. A lot of people feel like side steps are like backward steps, when actually they're not.
Yeah.
Like, and also, you don't have to take a pay cut. This is really important. Like, you do not have to take a pay cut to shift industry. But sometimes it's the easiest way, but you don't have to stay there. Within your plan, consider, if you're going to take a pay cut, how are you going to move forward quickly? Are you going to stay in that pay cut for 10 years? Or are you going to go be like, okay, I'm going to get 6 months experience, and then I'm going to move forward and be able to earn this much, because that's what these jobs that are paying what I'm currently on are looking for.
Yeah.
A lot of jobs are only looking for like 3 or 6 months, like additional experience. And a lot of jobs aren't looking for that at all. A pivot can be, like for me, for instance, I left education to go into recruitment, recruiting people in education.
Yes.
So use what you have to get what you want. But I knew that after I did that, I was going to move into human resources and recruitment in a totally different industry. And I gave myself a year.
Yeah.
The plan wasn't, oh, take a pay cut, stay here, be stuck. And also asking the right questions. I was asking in interviews, like, how quickly can people get promoted? What are the KPIs? What do I need to do? And I actually did, in my first move, take a pay cut. Within 4 weeks, I got a pay rise, because I'd made sure to ask the right questions at interviews. And I chose the company that was going to promote me faster. I had been offered more money somewhere else, so I would have been on more money, but I chose a different company, because the place that was offering me more money, I would have been stuck.
Yeah.
For long. Yeah. So a plan, like, before I went to the interviews, my plan was, I need a company that's going to promote fast, not necessarily a certain amount of money. And then I also still had a range of money. I wasn't willing to take like a huge pay cut. It's just having the plan in advance, because then your brain doesn't spin out.
Yes.
You're not like, oh my gosh, they just offered me £2,000 less. If you already knew that you're willing to take that amount, but if you're not willing to take the pay cut, then it's about changing your approach to the pivot.
But also, I guess there is like that bigger picture of stepping back and thinking, maybe for a short period of time, I have to earn a little bit less. But like you said, we're talking about 30 odd years of work. So, even if a couple of years you've got to build back up, like, that's nothing in the grand scheme of your working life.
Totally. And I imagine the reality is that over the trajectory of a career, you are going to earn significantly more doing something that you love in the long run, rather than slogging it out in something you hate and eventually just burning out and quitting because you just can't do it anymore. But I think there are there are people who, even if they sort of have that concept, for practical reasons, they've got a mortgage or they've got kids that they support or family, they literally just can't afford to take a pay cut at all. And as you say, that can be a really easy way. What other ways are there to sort of start making, or, you know, start thinking about making a change if we cannot afford to take a step back immediately?
I love this question because anyone I've helped change industry since I've been coaching, we haven't done pay cuts, we've done pay rises.
Oh my goodness, I love to hear this. Go on, tell us.
I mean, we haven't done one pay cut. My last person that I just helped is in LA. She was on 75,000 a year. She's now on 90,000 with an industry shift. We don't do steps back. My career has taught me, because I've learned how to do it for myself. I feel like I've then been able to do it for other people. I mentioned to you guys earlier before I jumped on that I've just been offered a new role. It is in a slightly new industry, still within staffing. It's not recruitment though, but I've moved it. I'm still management and it's a whole new industry. It's retail. I've not done retail, anything like that. And I've been able to not take a pay cut and shift industry. It's not necessary. I think the things you need to look at in the pivot, firstly, is your CV. I know that sounds really cliche, but we try and use the same CV that got us where we are, where we want to go. And where we want to go is something totally different.
Yeah.
So you need to, sometimes we're using like a CV that's entry level, junior level, or got us in the job that we don't enjoy, or at the money we don't enjoy.
That's so true. And I think that's actually a really useful point to think about, because I feel like we're not really taught, again, about how to get and adapt your CV for what you want to be doing. I mean, I haven't written one for a long time, but I know what you mean. Like, I remember just getting up an old CV and trying to adapt it and update it. But surely that doesn't make sense.
No, because you're just updating something that got you where you already are.
Yeah.
If you're trying to switch industry, your CV needs to pull out the skills that the new industry wants. So when I was doing interviews this time round, I was selling, I can't sell the fact that I've got retail, any kind of experience in retail staffing or anything like that, but I can sell the facts that I'm an operational director. I can run operations. Systems, I'm great at. Processes, I'm great at. Communication, I'm great at. Those are the things I'm selling. And when I'm presenting them in my CV, I'm presenting them at a senior level because I want senior job with senior money.
Totally.
And I think people think that sounds too easy. They're like, no, it's not possible. If you're changing industry, you have to take a step back. And I know it sounds easy. It sounds too easy, but it's not. That's the first bit. And then it's considering, how do you interview? When I showed up at interview, when they were asking me, so do you think there's going to be an issue with your gaps? I explained why it wouldn't be an issue. Because I'm presenting myself at a senior level. If I want that level of money, I have to present myself at that level. I think if we go in really shy and feeling like, oh, I've never done it before, so if you train me, then I'll be able to do it, you'll get a response where the money will be less.
Yeah.
Than what, like when they asked me about my money and it was more, they were sort of like, oh, okay, we'll look into it. It wasn't even like, because I didn't approach it like, well, could you maybe?
No, it's like, this is
I was like, oh, this is what I want.
Yeah.
And I think I'm that good.
Yeah.
And it's going to, like, I'll commit to doing this, this, and this. So, and then, they came back and it was great. But I know that isn't the case for everybody. But like I said, it is how you position yourself. Like, I've had someone go from head hostess to social media and events, 15K pay rise.
Yeah.
I've had people hit 30K pay. I've had people hit ridiculous amounts of money. And also take this into consideration as well. There are companies just that pay more, even for your current skill set.
Yeah.
Even if you're not shifting industry, there are companies paying double or at least 20K more for what you currently do. So anyone who's listening now, there is someone out there doing your exact same job, probably on 20K more than you. And trust me when I say that, because I've been in the situation myself.
Yeah, I mean, you really kind of emphasize it there, and I think it's something I want to pick up on, this idea that you really do need to sell yourself, sell your skills if you want to make those jumps, if you want to switch career path, if you want to go into a new field and not go back to, I guess, the first step on the ladder. It's up to us to position ourselves and sell ourselves to the company. But I think for a lot of people, that is something that feels really daunting or a bit awkward. How do you encourage your clients to start going down that path of like, I am great, like I'm the shit, like yeah, you should hire me, even if I don't have as much experience as that other person over there?
We work on the confidence first. I lead with confidence. We're not going to jump straight into a job move. Because the job move becomes easier the more confident you are. So we work on like the journaling that everybody hates doing, including myself, but it works. So we work on the journaling. We work on them picking out and saying to me, well, this is what I'm good at. But if they say to me, well, I think I'm good at, immediately I'll be like, well, then you're not good at it. And they'll be like, what? And I'll be like, well, if you said you think, they'll be like, no. And either what happens is they'll say to me, no, I know I'm good at it. And they'll start telling me. Or they'll say like, yeah, I don't really know if I'm good at it. And then I'll say, if you're good at something, you can give me examples of where you've used it.
Okay.
You can give me evidence in your personal life. I always start with personal life.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your personal life. It's much easier for us to talk about our friends, family, personal life, and what we're good at in there than it is in our job.
Why?
I think we're comfortable. It doesn't feel like bragging because you're around friends and people that prop you up all the time. And whereas when you're at work, it feels more braggy. So if I can get people to feel confident in their personal, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Then I'm like, tell me how that work shows up at work. And then they're like, oh my gosh. And then it literally becomes them just sprouting words, saying this to me and saying like, oh my gosh, I can do this and I can do this. And I do this. And my boss said this to me. And my colleague just asked me this today, Adelle. And I'll be like, okay, what else? And you come up with it if you can start in your comfort zone. You figure out your zone of genius once you start in your comfort zone. How you said earlier that you enjoyed writing and you just started writing. You did it it wasn't at work. You didn't start off with a work thing. Confidence comes from when we can find comfort first, and comfort is usually found, not for everyone, but for a lot of us in our friendship groups, in our families, wherever that is, finding your confidence there and then figuring out how to connect that to work and then going from there. And once you get that bit, I feel like then the jump is easier. It doesn't make you an overall confident person, because I think sometimes people have this misconception. Like I have areas that I'm not that confident in.
Yeah.
But what it is finding the area that in your work that you're confident in and just selling that one thing. I say to people, it's only 1 to 3 things we need to figure out what to sell. Being confident in that one thing and selling it. I will sell the fact that I'm a problem solver anywhere, in any industry, in any room. But that's all I'm selling. And that's what gets me jobs. But people think you have to be great at 1,000 things. You don't. Like selling isn't about, and it's not that cringy, weird salesman type of selling. It is more about what's just one thing I'm good at and what's one thing I can talk about and believe that I'm good at it.
Yeah.
How do you hold on to that belief though? Because I'm just thinking again about my own experiences. I know that I'm good at writing, but even when someone asks for me, I had this recently, a client said, oh, we might, need some keynote pieces written. Have you got some examples that you can send over? And I was like, oh my gosh, what if they think that these examples are like just rubbish? Like I knew they were not rubbish, but that seed of doubt, I was like, oh my gosh, like they're going to think I'm a fraud. And is there any way that you can kind of manage that or back yourself, I guess, ultimately? Yeah. I feel like this is turning into like a coaching session now. I'm like, hell.
I feel like evidence for yourself though. So at the time when you do something great, making a note of it. I get my clients to have accomplishment just diaries or voice note themselves. I voice note myself a lot when I have a win. I'll voice note myself on my phone and just be like, oh my gosh, anytime you're feeling bad, can you please remember today when this and this and this and this happened and you was awesome at it? If you don't have that to go back to, I'm no different from you. I literally have days where I'm like, I'm rubbish at coaching. My client hasn't got a job yet. Who even am I? Like, why do I do this? And then I go back. I have to look at old evidence, but we don't keep track of our failures. We don't keep track of our wins. You have to physically keep track of your wins by they need to be on a computer. They need to be written down. I have a spreadsheet I can go back to. I have to log them, because if I don't, I forget all the things. Some of the wins I'm telling you now is because they recently happened.
Yeah.
But I've been helping people for years. I probably can't even remember some of the people I helped 3 years ago, but I can go back to my list and be like, wow, the first person I coached got a 20K pay rise. Of course you're good at what you do, but will you remember that information? Who remembers stuff that they even did at 18 and 19 that you did really well? Nobody. So keeping a list, I think that's how you back yourself. And also looking at that list the day, for you, for instance, having to send that stuff over. looking back at some wins, of writing wins, reminding yourself and then being like, okay, no, I'm actually really good at this. And even if it only lasts for that moment, because I sometimes think we want something to last for months and months and months, but sometimes you have to keep revisiting. Confidence is something that's continuously worked on, continuously growing.
Yeah.
So
very.
Yeah, you could wake up today and be the least confident, look at some old wins, feel great, go out there for the rest of that day and feel great, and then tomorrow still wake up with no confidence again. It's normal, and I want everyone to know that confidence isn't something you just have every day for the rest of your life. It is a skill, and it's a skill that you have to perfect and master, and every level of your confidence will change. So you will feel like, I might feel really good now, but I'll get into a room with women who like I aspire to be like, and suddenly I'm not confident. I don't think I can speak. That actually happened to me on Friday.
Yeah.
I did a YouTube and that happened and it was awful.
I was listening to a podcast last night and I absolutely loved what this woman said. She said, if you are seeing other people and comparing yourself to them going, oh, I'm not as good as them, why don't you, instead of seeing it as evidence that you're not good enough, why don't you see it as evidence that if this is in front of you, maybe this is being sent as some sort of sign that you can do this? Or why don't you take it as evidence that if this is possible for them, it's possible for me too. So I really, really love that kind of reframing.
Thank you to Yonder for sponsoring this episode.
Yonder is the epic new credit card that rewards London's foodies and adventurers with experiences at some of the city's best places to eat and explore.
Earn points when you spend, then use your points at our choice of bars, restaurants and experiences in and around London, like Cricket, Bow and Unplugged.
It's as easy as paying with your card and swiping on your app. What's not to love?
New customers get 1 month free and a £50 dining credit. To find out if you're eligible now by heading to yondercard.com.
Yonder wants to help younger people use credit responsibly, so make sure you only borrow what you can afford to pay back.
Your application is subject to eligibility and you'll need to be over 18 and a UK resident to apply. A membership fee and T&Cs apply. The representative rate is 64% APR variable.
One thing I really like to ask you, which is slightly different to confidence, is more about deserving to have this dream career that fulfills us and pays us what we want. Because I think, and I really enjoyed listening to your kind of personal experience when you were interviewed on another podcast, but I think there's plenty of us who have parents who really emphasized, understandably, who have really emphasized, you know, the importance of security and putting food on the table. And essentially, if you've got work and you can keep a roof over your head and put food on the table, you should be grateful and do everything you can to sort of hold that position down. So I think if you have come from that kind of family and you've had that kind of narrative, it can feel very indulgent and sort of very romantic to pursue a career that you enjoy and pay, you know, and puts food on the table. And I'd love to know how you've navigated that and how you help other people navigate that one.
Probably one of the hardest. That was probably one of the hardest ones for me, and it's probably one that I battle with till this day.
I'm struggling with it still. Yeah.
I got immigrant parents who came here, built a life for themselves, worked from the ground up. Like my mum didn't even get to finish high school. She was sent here when she was 14. So, and for her to like get a mortgage, do all the things, like live the dream, like live her life, but she worked hard. I saw my mum work 3, 4 jobs. I had to take care of myself at a really young age. And I was taught, if your bills are paid and you have even a little bit extra over, oh, you're winning. You have the best
you are
life
winning.
in the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
What are you complaining about? How dare you talk about happy? Like that wasn't a thing in my house. Happy should be that your bills are paid. Like my mum would say to me, when I first was changing industry, my mum was like, she was like, listen, this is a joke, but I'm behind you because I'm your mum. She's very supportive in that sense, but she was like, this is not what
you're crazy.
You're a manager, you're making money, the bills are paid. Like, so I get this part. I get that.
Yeah, that's exactly my experience too. Is like, you know, I've said to my mum, you know, times like I'm not happy and I think I'm going to do something different. She's like, but you know, you get paid and how can you walk away from that security of the income every month? And if you start again, you'll have to take so much less. It's that. I'm like, how do you overcome that?
And I think ultimately our parents do want us to be happy.
Yeah.
And for them, the security is happiness. And that's why they want us to be secure. Truth for me is I like proving people wrong. So that made it a little bit easier for me. And if you tell me I can't do it, I just have to prove to you that I can. So that helped for me, but I know a lot of people don't necessarily have that. They just want to make everyone around them happy. Again, it goes back to, if you are unhappy, how long are you willing to be unhappy? Because unhappiness is a dark hole that you keep going down. And actually, what if you go first? And I think that's the hard one for a lot of us, but are you willing to go first to show the people around you that you can be happy and do a career that you like? Are you willing to go first? Because the truth is, it will come full circle. My mum now, do you think she's not happy when we're going on trips to Dubai? I'm like, and I'm paying, and she's like, oh, this is what extra means. I started saying to myself, I don't want to just be able to pay bills and exist in this world. I'm deserving, because life has to be more than just paying bills. It has to be. And that's where I started. And that's where I start with my clients. I ask them, does life not have to be more than just paying bills for another 3 or 4 years?
Well, yeah, because, if we take the view, we've got one life, why would we just accept? And I do understand, I really do understand, that a lot of generations have had different struggles and different experiences. But, if you have the opportunity to be happier or more fulfilled, it kind of seems crazy at the same time that you would choose not to do that. And there are just so many examples, and, it works both ways, but of people where they've got plenty of money and they are just not happy. They are not fulfilled. And
Totally.
you only have to, listen to or read, watch some of those examples. And I think for me, it's not to say money doesn't matter, because stability and being able to pay the bills, it is so important for our financial well-being. But more money isn't always going to make us happier. And actually, sometimes you can be so much more fulfilled on less money with a job you like.
Yeah. And can I just say that you said something that just made me think of something. Sometimes we just need to try and remember where you are now is your start point. We think that somehow we're going to fall lower than where we currently are. I was just before an operations director of a company. I can do that job, hands down, hands tied behind my back, hopping on one leg. So even if I change industry, like now what I'm doing, and it doesn't work, for whatever reason, can't I just go back to being an operations director, making the exact same money that I was making? We forget that part.
Honestly, that is so true. We think if we try one thing and it doesn't work out, we've ruined our whole lives. Yeah.
It's so true though, because a lot of people ask me, how did I walk away from law when I walked away? And the reason I did it is because I stayed as long as I needed to get qualified. And I always knew that I can go back to that. That was my safety net. I got the qualification, and if anything else didn't work out, I've got it. That's my starting point that I can go back to. And we all have that, whether it's a qualification or not. We've all got a level of experience that we're walking away from that we can come back to, and it doesn't just disappear.
But that was literally something my mum had said to me. And it's really funny because sometimes her words worked against her when it came to my career. But she said to me growing up, if you get the education, no one can take it away from you. If you get the qualifications, no one can ever take it away from you. It's always yours. If you get the experience, no one can take it away from you. If you think of that always, and it's not about having this safety net, oh my gosh, I'm going to run back, if not everything. But if you have that in the back of your mind, me always knowing I could go back to education, I could go back to teaching, meant that I was always willing to move forward. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I'll go back to I always say to people even now, I'll be like, if everything fails, I'll go back to teaching. I haven't taught for 15, 16 years, taught small children. Yeah. But I still say, I'll go back to it.
Yeah, it's
that's what I'm qualified to do. That's what I've done. So it's just trying to remember that wherever you are now is your starting point. You don't go back worse than your starting point. You can always go back to exactly where you are right now. So even if you try 6 months, doesn't work out, go back to your start point, go back to where you was. And you can probably get more money anyway, because if you've left one job and you're going back 6 months later to being up the same level, you'll probably get more money because you're switching company. So
one thing I'd love to know, honestly, I have so many questions. I could speak to you all day, but I am conscious of time. But one thing I'd really love to know is, for people who are listening to this and are feeling, a bit more positive and inspired that perhaps a career change is possible for them, as I am, how do you, for people who don't necessarily have a clear direction as to where they want to go, but they just know they're stuck, they're unhappy and they're unfulfilled, do you have any advice or tips for just starting to do the work to find out what might bring us some joy and some fulfillment in our work?
Yeah, start figuring out, like we spoke about earlier, what you're good at, your strengths. It doesn't need to be 100 things, just one thing that you're really good at. Start talking to people in your circle. Get on LinkedIn. Start talking to people online. Start having conversations. I've found out about jobs that I didn't even know existed just from networking on LinkedIn. Like jobs that I was like, oh, that sounds fun. Like things that have opened my mind to just other possibilities. I never thought like 3 years ago that I would have a coaching business. Until people were saying to me, you already coach. Like I was helping people with interviews, I was helping people with CV. They were like, you're already coaching. Then I was like, oh, let me just do a course and see what it's all about. And then I was like, oh yeah, I do this already. So having conversations, like you don't have to jump straight away. I think sometimes we want the industry change and we're like, okay, it has to happen now in the next 3 months. It doesn't. You can go and network. There's no rush. Remember, you're good where you are. Right now, you're good. There is no rush. Have conversations, network online, find out about jobs you've never heard of, try different stuff and see where it goes from there. But there isn't a rush to quit what you're doing now and just automatically get into the new job. Like I said, it took me 6 months to get my head around it, to build my confidence, and then to say, okay, I'm going to start looking. That was 6 months to start looking. And then it was probably like another 2-3 months till I actually moved. So when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't like I woke up and just said, I'm changing industry and just did that. Also LinkedIn, you can actually drop your skills, if you're confident in what your skills are, into the search bar and then random jobs come up. People don't know that, but like you could drop 3 skills in, like, I don't know, communication, problem solving and something else. And then random jobs that you're like, what? I don't even know what this is. But you can start reading them and see how they feel. I'm a big believer in read the job description and see how it feels. How much of it feels good and how much of it doesn't feel good. Like, because I feel like in most jobs, there's at least 20% of stuff we don't like. Like, as much as I love my job, there is 20% of all jobs that I've done that I just don't enjoy as much.
Yeah, I think that's inevitable, isn't it?
I think that's just normal. And then an exercise that a fellow coach spoke about once that I really like doing with my clients is write your own job description.
Nice.
Write the ideal job description. What does it look like? What do you do every day? What kind of work do you do? Even if you're not sure of the work, what skills is it using? Like, write the job description. How much money are you earning? Do all that. Firstly, it helps to get you a little bit motivated. But then when you find all these random job descriptions, you start to connect them and say like, oh, this has got like 80% of what I've put on my ideal job description. This might be it. Let me go for interviews and see. I think that's important as well. Don't take every interview like I have to get the job. It can just be a fact-finding expedition.
Honestly, I love that. I think that's such a great shift as well, because often we have an attitude of, I need them to give me a job and I need to mold to their job description. But it's like, no, the job should serve us too. If we set the tone for what we actually want, then we can go out and find it. But if you haven't done that, I guess you are by default just going to be molding yourself into a job description that somebody else has created. And
if you start with your job description, you go in with less desperate energy. It isn't about, I want the job. It's about, let me check if this job ticks my boxes. Then I'll decide if I want to be here.
Can we just talk about that? I think that's really interesting. Less desperate energy. Can you just explain what you mean by that and why it's important?
Less desperate energy. Desperate energy for me, oh my gosh, when you show up at an interview and all you're thinking about is, I need the job. So you're trying to answer the questions how they want. You forget to even ask them the things that are important to you because you're just so desperate to get the offer. Desperate energy creates desperate results, and desperate results are never good results.
I love that. Desperate energy creates desperate results. That is, I want to have that on my wall. That's amazing.
I feel like it's so important because I relate it to like relationships. If you move into relationships from desperate energy, they're always the relationships that you're like, why did I even get into this relationship? I need to run away. Because you come in from a place of lack that I'm not good enough. So they're somehow going to build me up because I'm so desperate for them to like me, so desperate. When you shift that energy and you go in, and when I say to my clients, I always say to them, your first interview, we're just checking what questions they ask. It's just testing out. They usually always end up getting the job because they don't go in caring. They go in like, okay, is this industry going to be for me? Let me ask questions. What is the day-to-day going to be like? How often do people get promoted? We ask questions that really help them to check if this is the job for them. That moment, that shift makes, I noticed that my clients will go for only like 2 interviews to get the job, like two different companies. We're not going for like 30 different interviews trying to get the job because they're going in, asking the right questions, then coming back to me and saying, nope, that wasn't the company for me. Or I actually am not sure if this is the industry. Maybe let me go for another couple of interviews and see. But you've approached your whole job search from a totally different point of view. And a lot of us that are unhappy now in jobs, remind yourself that that's probably not how you approached it, and that's maybe why you're unhappy. So approach it in a different way and see if you get a different result.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I think for a lot of people listening to this, that will be a complete like shift in how they do approach interviews. And it when you think of it like that, it's like, why would I not go in looking at whether it fits what I want? But this has been amazing. There have been so many brilliant things that you've covered here. For anybody that wants to find out more, that wants to contact you, look at what your services are, where's the best place to contact you?
If you just want an informal chat, definitely Instagram. Coach Adelle T. Adelle is double L, because my mum's a bit extra. So yeah, Coach Adelle T. You can find me. I'm always hanging out on Instagram. If not, you can head over to my website, and it's atenrich.com, and you can find all my services there. Yeah.
Brilliant. We will drop all of those links into the show notes. But thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, that was amazing. Thank you so much. I am like